Hello, everyone. This is Ktown Social Club, a live stream test. I'm your host, Michael Kim, and I'm testing to see if this works. It appears that there's a comment from Kimchi Kidding. What else? Wow, 3 people watching. Who could they be? Oh, thank you. It's been a year since our last video, or just under a year. So I'm sorry you're not going to get much entertaining content today, but I'm just going to do this for about 15 minutes and see how many people actually end up coming in over the 15-minute period. But since you said you love the videos, may I ask which videos you like? Or what kind of videos? And Kim, hello. What did you like about Ktown Social Club? Oh, there's only 2 people watching now. Okay. All right, let me go through the news then. Going through Instagram, I see some things. Apparently, there was an Asian man who approached the white guy who was live streaming, and he began stereotyping him, asking if he was a pedophile or involved with Epstein because he was a white guy. And I saw this on the Asians with Attitudes Instagram page. Interesting. All right, so K-Town Social Club went down about a year ago. The last episode was with Yavato Kim, a Korean American who grew up in LA and moved to Vietnam about 15 years ago. He spent most of his time in Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon. And I think a few years ago, he moved to Da Nang, which is in central Vietnam, where there was also a US military base during the war. Also, if you've seen Full Metal Jacket, the scene right after Leonard Lawrence shoots his drill instructor and then himself, it cuts to a scene in Vietnam where you see a prostitute walk up and you hear that miso, the famous miso horny line. That was actually in Da Nang, or supposed to be in Da Nang. But anyway, that was the last episode, was an interview with Yavato Kim. Yavato meaning the yellow vato. And prior to that, I think there was a video with Xiang Yu, the Taiwanese American rapper, who made a food video. I think it was like some Taiwanese street food, like there was some chicken and some desserts and things like that. And then prior to that was the interview that I did with Hank Yu, who was Johnny Somali's, I suppose, BFF. And I was in Korea when I did that interview with Hank. And then afterwards, I did go to, where did I go from there? I went to Thailand, and then from Thailand, I went to Vietnam. And then in Vietnam is where I interviewed Yavato. So the actual last episode in the format where, there's like panelists and like a host and issues are discussed was, I think way before that. That's been over a year. So I'm going to guess, actually, I can check right now. That was on June 18th. So that's been about 13 and a half months since the last standard episode that we were doing. And yeah, so it's been a while. A lot of things happened. The show used to be based out of Koreatown, Los Angeles, as Radio Korea was in Koreatown for many years, since 1989. But we were in one of the iconic buildings in Koreatown, Wilshire Park Place, which has the famous Liberty Park out front with the replica of the Liberty Bell. And Jameson, which is Koreatown's #1 landlord, although it's operated by a Korean American family, Jameson informed us a few years ago that they would not be renewing our lease. And I heard from one of the owners, or one of the partners there, Dr. Cho. He told me that they were going to turn it into apartments or something like that, residential. So because of that, Radio Korea looked around for years around the Koreatown area to find a new place to have our headquarters. And we couldn't find a proper place. We found a place sort of in Hancock Park, a commercial building, and it had the parking that we needed, because that was the hardest thing to find, was the parking. So we found the parking that we needed for Radio Korea, but right when we were getting ready to sign, or in the negotiations, another company took over that spot. It was actually Koei, and Koei was actually already in the building, but they wanted to expand, so they took that. So we couldn't have that spot. And then we found another spot in Koreatown, which was about sort of on the eastern end of Koreatown, I think around Virgil, and I think somewhere between Vermont and Virgil, around there, around 6th Street. And there was a building there that we could have used, but oh man, the building was in such horrible condition, and it had the parking that we needed, but the building was in such bad condition, it would have cost us too much to do everything right. So after years of searching in Koreatown, we finally gave up. And then our VP actually happened to find a location in Orange County, here in the city of La Palma, actually right on the border of LA County. I think we're just a few streets away from LA County, because we're right next to Cerritos. And then Buena Park is also across the street from us. And Buena Park is like the new Koreatown of Orange County. I think back in the day it was like in Garden Grove. But now there's a lot of, it's very Korean out here also. So I kind of see like, I try to resist moving to Orange County for the longest time. I felt like, with the history of Koreatown and Radio Korea and the LA riots and everything, we had to stay in LA, but there's also reality. So due to reality, we moved to Orange County, and I kind of see it as like Orange County is like, for Korean people now, I guess the way you see Chinatown in Los Angeles now and the San Gabriel Valley, it's like that's where the big Chinese population is now. And yeah, it's a change. So anyway, we moved here. We acquired this building over a year ago, but we didn't move in here until December, because we had to do all this construction and build out the new studios and everything. And we didn't really finish fully moving until I think about February or so. So now we're pretty settled in here. It's been about 5 6 months since we're like fully settled here. But with the changes and people who'd been at the company for decades who were living in K-Town or closer or even in the Valley, San Fernando Valley. Um, yeah, the commute really went up for them a lot, and a lot of people left also. And on the other hand, some people who were commuting from Orange County to Koreatown, for them, they loved it because now, what used to be like an hour and a half commute now might only be 10 minutes for them. So yeah, a lot of things have changed here. And at the same time, I didn't really have time to do K-Town Social Club. And, there were some issues with some of the, with people. And, but really the main reason was financial because K-Town Social Club is not a moneymaker. It's never been a moneymaker. It's made a few bucks throughout the years, like random sponsorships here and there. I think maybe 2 times, maybe at the most. But it was really more of a kind of like a passion project, I suppose, like something I really wanted to do to have a space for Korean Americans or even Asian Americans to get together to talk about issues that you don't hear in other media. Like, conservative media may say this, liberal media says this, but I wanted to discuss all kinds of things, especially things that people aren't really used to hearing about or ideas that people have never really heard before. So that was the whole idea behind it. And, rather than just, one person giving their point of view, I wanted to have a discussion, may the best idea win kind of thing. And, I was never meant to be the host of K-Town Social Club. I was just the creator. I think before the pandemic, that's when I started developing the show. It was in 2019. And I was working on building the stage, the studio, and I made the first logo, I made it with Microsoft Paint. And yeah. And I picked the flooring. I went to downtown, picked the flooring. I got the wall panels from Home Depot. Light fixtures I got, I think, from Home Depot also. And the desk that was used was an old Radio Korea news desk that was used when Radio Korea was doing TV back in like 2017, 2018. So nobody was really using it. So I used it and I changed the color of it from like orange to black in the bottom part anyway. And then if you see the first episode of K-Town Social Club, I'm not in there at all. I asked my friend or 동생 or whatever, comrade, whatever you want to call him, David Yoon. He hosted the first episode, which we did about homelessness. And yeah. But David was busy or whatever, or actually, as I recall, trying to get a bunch of people together at the same time to do a show, it's really hard because people's schedules are so different. Some people are available on this time, that time, only this day or that day, and then some people come late. So it's really difficult to just do that alone, really. And I was doing that alone initially, and then I realized, it's easier if I just. So I think I started hosting it myself. I think from episode 2, and yeah, I was always just gonna be behind the scenes. I mean, you notice it's not the Michael Kim show. It's K-Town Social Club. I want it to be a club of Koreans who just chat and talk. Mainly, not just limited to Koreans, to anybody, but primarily Koreans. And yeah, that's yeah, and a lot of things happened, and yeah, so I never really thought about this show making money, and I never really thought about like how to maximize the views, because I think about that stuff for other Radio Korea projects, but this was like a personal project that I started before I was even officially working at Radio Korea, like in a management position. And so I always just kind of saw this as like um, I saw this as just kind of like my own, like what I want to do. And so I never thought about like, oh, how do I maximize the views? How do I do I mean, maybe basic, but it was never like that important to me. It was more about what do I want to do? What do I find interesting? What interests me? And so, uh, yeah, what interests me. So it was basically a show that I wanted to do for the community, I suppose, but in the way that I wanted to do it. And and it was like my show, my creation, my concept. And there were some times where some people didn't like the way I wanted to do something, or and some people may have let their opinions be known. And I don't know, like I don't know how, if I really want to, I have to be careful because I'm not trying to start shit with anybody. I'm not trying to piss anyone off, but because I'm too old for that shit of all that drama. Some people get into a lot of drama, they get into a lot of arguing online, and it's like I don't have the energy for that. I'm so busy, and and it's not my brand or my content thing to do that. But in the most diplomatic way possible, I'll say that, okay, let's just say there are creative differences, but at the end of the day, this is my show and I'm going to do this show the way I want to do it. And and I can turn it on, I can turn it off, whatever. Again, I never intended this to be a moneymaker. I never thought, how am I going to make money from this? How am I going to get popular? I never thought that. And I realized, working with people, whether on this program or other programs on Radio Korea or whatever it is, a lot of people do care about that a lot. And, they calculate and they can, and, and I understand that, but for this show, no, it's like my child. So, and I plan to use this channel forever, and I may shut it off for years at a time and then just do it whenever I feel like doing it. But and the crazy thing is, after the show went off and was silent for a while, I was getting like random messages from people like, hey, when's the show coming back? I really like the show. And it wasn't that many, it was just a few. But I realized like, oh, people actually liked it. Okay, like my concept, what I wanted to do, and of course I couldn't have done it without the panelists with their personalities and their own character, and they have their entertaining qualities about them, and but I was glad that people enjoyed it. And even as recently as like 2-3 weeks ago, somebody hit me up and was like, when are you bringing the show back? And but at the end of the day, again, the show doesn't make money, and my priority is managing the company Radio Korea. And Radio Korea has like 20 different programs on the radio that make money, but Ktown Social Club doesn't make money. So I can't, focus a lot of my time on Ktown Social Club. And frankly, Ktown Social Club also gave me the most stress, tremendous amount of stress. But also I enjoyed it the most. So, yeah. Now, we were gonna do we were going to do like a limited series on Ktown Social Club with there was a Korean American influencer, and so we set up our new studio here. Like we set up a new studio to redo Ktown Social Club. So it's all set up now, but negotiations didn't work out, and so that's not going to happen anymore. And at the same time, it's like, well, we set up the studio, so I might as well do some episodes. This is not the studio. This is my office. This is my private office. It's boring, and it's a small office. But I decided, you know what? Let me try to do Ktown Social Club again, since we have the new studio set up for it anyway. It's, it's not as nice. I mean, not that the last studio was nice with the, what is it? Was it like brick wall panels on one side and then wooden wall panels on the other side with the kidney bean shaped desk? And I know that wasn't pretty, but anyway, the new one that we have here doesn't look as elaborate, I guess, but I think it looks nicer, more minimalist, I guess. I don't know. You can be the judge later when you see it. So I want to do it again. And so yeah, if anybody wants to talk about news or politics or whatever, and you want to be on Ktown Social Club, hey, let's do it. You can join via Zoom. I think we have it set up so that we can have like up to 3 Zoom people on there, and then we can have like at the current moment like 2 people in the studio, so it would be like me and like 1 other person. So if you're in LA, Orange County, you can be in the studio. Otherwise, you can be on Zoom. So we can do that. So yeah, if you want to talk about Korean American stuff or South Korea or I don't know, China, the CCP or Vietnam or Russia or Ukraine or Iran. I mean, there were so many things that have happened where it's like, oh, I wish we were still doing Ktown Social Club so we could talk about it, like the war in Iran or even more recently, there was that case with was it like some Asian shop owner like killed a black teenager, or I forgot what the case was, but black people started saying, let's boycott Asian businesses over this. And yeah, I had very strong feelings about that. Like what the fuck? Like, that's so fucking dumb. It's like you want to boycott Asian businesses because, okay, I don't really know the whole case, but okay, let's say Asian man killed the black minor, let's say, and then was found not innocent, whatever the case was. Is it an Asian justice system that made that happen? Or is it a white justice system? Do Asians control that? No. So because of that, you're going to boycott all these mom and pop Asian businesses, and because they are responsible for the failure of the US justice system. And then at the same time, you're not going to boycott white businesses, or, I mean, are you going to boycott Walmart, Target, Microsoft, Amazon, Instagram? Like, are you going to boycott all these, or are you just targeting these little Asian businesses? Like that was some of the dumbest shit I saw, and I was really like, oh, I wish we were doing Ktown Social Club back then. And it was too bad that we weren't. And it was really annoying seeing a bunch of Asian American like influencers joining in on this campaign against Asians again. It's like, oh Jesus, like yeah, that was really annoying. So, I wanted to talk about that, and I guess more of the, I don't know, when did the Epstein Files thing, was that last year or this? Anyway, more about Epstein Files or about Charlie Kirk. The Charlie Kirk assassination. I don't think we covered that. Yeah, that was September 10th, I think. So, and our last episode was like 13, 14 months ago. So yeah, we would have covered the Charlie Kirk thing and all that. So, yeah. Oh, and one thing I wanted, one really cool thing was I was contacted. Anyway, I got in touch with someone who was a huge fan of Ktown Social Club, and that person. Uh, anyway, through that person, I was able to meet a very famous, super famous Hollywood movie director, and I was invited to his home for his Super Bowl party, and I met so many celebrities there, and like I got to meet all these like big names there. I was just like, whoa! I've never even seen a Super Bowl in my life. Um, and actually, I still didn't see the Super Bowl because before kickoff, I said goodbye. I'm gonna leave. And man, that house was just like a palace, in the sky, and like amazing house. And it's just like amazing seeing all these people I saw in movies and TV, and it's just like, oh hey, nice to meet you, and But anyway, that was a result of K-Town Social Club, that I got invited to this person's home, and it was just great. It was just an amazing experience, and I've been invited to other things and all that. So yeah. But anyway, yeah, lots of things have happened. Whether Radio Korea or in the news, even in my personal life, I think. Huh? What happened in my personal life? I don't know. I just feel like last year I feel I was more active out and about doing stuff, and this year I've been more of a recluse. Um, yeah. But yeah, let me read some comments here. K Cam, I will tell you, I watched every single K Town Social Club video. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it that much to watch every episode. Honestly, I genuinely enjoy the political takes, especially the unhinged moments. Yeah, yeah, me too. The thing is, part of what I was trying to do with K Town Social Club is, when there's you can just talk to somebody about communism or socialism or capitalism, whatever political views, right? But if you just talk about that, it's just kind of hard to get it through to people because a lot of people don't care about politics or hearing about politics. And I thought, okay, well, what's a way we can get people to talk about it or think about it or get interested in it? Well, you have to make it entertaining. You use entertainment to have political discussions, and that's why I liked having certain kinds of people, certain people on the show, because I know that they have entertaining personalities, and they have knowledge, but they also have personalities, and and I have my personality and they have their personality, and sometimes it clashes, but it can be entertaining for people and actually can get people more engaged and listening to the discussion. So that was a intentional thing that I wanted to do. And there was also there were like some people who would never do the show, and they told me like, I don't want to do the show because it's too silly. You guys don't take it seriously or whatever. And like, I understand that, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not trying to reach people that are already interested in like politics. I want it to be like, people who don't really care about, or people who are just kind of mildly interested, who, I don't know. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here. But yeah, so, yeah, unhinged moments. Yes, the unhinged moments was what made K-Town Social Club so unique. I have to tell you, those unhinged moments would, on the show, it can be stressful enough, right? Sometimes during a show, and sometimes there were very uncomfortable moments in the studio. But, sometimes those unhinged moments don't end once the filming stops. Sometimes behind the scenes, for, there can always be stuff going on behind the scenes. And maybe not every day, but maybe once in a while, or maybe every week, or every couple weeks, or once in a while something big happens, or this happens. And it was a lot to deal with for me, like mentally, like it was, as much as I like doing K-Town Social Club, it also drained me, and it was very mentally exhausting at times. Yeah, and at the same time, I'm trying to run an organization which has dozens and dozens of employees, and there's already plenty of issues going on here, and then just for this one podcast that doesn't make money, which is just like my passion project, which we only film one day a week, is causing me so much stress. It's like, and it was really affecting my ability to, or really, yeah, it had an effect on the rest of my work. So that was another reason why it was like, I can't. And eventually, as you saw, I did stop hosting it. And, somebody else, Ed hosted. Yeah, at that time, I was just way too busy to do it. And then, again, I don't know if I want to say everything now. If there are people out there still talking trash about me publicly on their social media or whatever, like, because I'm trying not to do this, but if they are still doing that, then yeah, I will have to respond, but I don't have any proof of that now, so I'm not going to say anything now. And hopefully I don't have to say anything. I know I released a video late last year, or like a short or something, saying that, the former panelist Doug had been saying stuff about me for like 8 months, and it was, not true or whatever. And I was gonna respond to it all. Anyway, I never did that. It was just, yeah, it didn't feel like it was worth it. And it's a lot of work, And again, I have so much shit to do here. So yeah. But I don't know how I got on this. But yeah, it was really hard, and I think what K-Town Social Club needs is like an actual producer, so that I can just come on and host, and I don't have to deal with the HR aspect of it, managing a show and booking guests and all this stuff. Yeah, but I appreciate everybody, even if they despise me or whatever, and I may still despise some aspects of them. I do appreciate the contributions they made to the program. That won't change, but sometimes your mental health has to come first. So yeah, what else? Tai Chu says, it's so nice to see you again. Oh, well, thank you. OG Schraub Nerd, I still listen to your old episodes. Glad you will be back. Oh, you listen to the old episodes. Actually, I do listen to some of them as well. Sometimes if, recently I was listening to the episode where we were talking about DeepSeek, because of Kimmy, and, you've heard about the new, or not new, but Kimmy is like apparently really good now, the Chinese AI model, whatever. And I went back to listen to the DeepSeek episode. And I actually mentioned Kimmy on there too. I forgot about that, but yeah, I do listen to some of the old episodes sometime as well. What else? DJ Elf. Hey, what's up? What's up, Elf? It sounds cool, but Epstein and Hollywood ties. Yep, yeah. And then K Kim says lots of shit happened within the year. Yep, lots of shit. I can't even remember it all. But you know what? That Billy Joel song, We Didn't Start the Fire? I think that covers all the events that happened from his birth in 1949 until the song came out, I think, 89 or 90 or whatever. So if you listen to the lyrics of We Didn't Start the Fire, it's just all these, it's just a listing of all these events and figures and all this. Harry Truman, Doris Day, Red China, Johnny Ray, blah, blah, blah. North Korea, South Korea, Marilyn Monroe. Yeah, anyway. Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire. Okay. DJ Elf asks, do you have any thoughts on Kangmin Lee? Yeah. I'm not a fan of his. I've never been a fan of his. And I wanted to get him on the show in the past through Michael Wan. Michael Wan, I think, had a connection to him, but, you know, for whatever, you know, Michael Wan left the show. You know, I don't know what I'm supposed to say and what I'm not supposed to say, but anyway, unfortunately, you know, he couldn't be on the show anymore. So I don't know. I wanted to have Kangmin Lee on the show because even though I don't really like the guy, I'm not a fan of his, I don't mind talking to people like that and, you know, trying to understand them. You know, same thing when we interviewed that Korean American artist. I guess he's kind of like a sort of like a Hitler apologist or whatever, or they called him the Korean American Nazi or whatever, Arthur Kwan Lee. I wanted to interview him, and I mean, yeah, sure. You know, my co-hosts or whatever, the panelists, they didn't want to do that, but I wanted to understand Arthur Kwan Lee. Like, you know, how did he come to think the way that he does? You know, and you know, based on the information that we could provide him that may go against what he believes, you know, how would he respond to that? I'm a very curious person. I wanted to see. But unfortunately, I mean, at the time I thought it was funny, but it turned into this kind of a mess, and Arthur just kind of quit you know, he went off. And I tried to get him, you know, I talked to him privately through text after to try to get him to come back on, but yeah, I don't think he wants to do that. I mean, he wasn't interested. So I kind of regret not managing that interview with Arthur Kwan Lee better, because I really did want to learn his point of view and why he thinks the way he does. Yeah, you know, but yeah. So, and Kangmin Lee, you know, the one thing that I don't like about him personally is he tends to, from what I've seen on Twitter, he likes to start shit. And he's kind of like, yeah, he likes to start shit, and I think it creates I've seen a lot of negativity towards Koreans as a result. And it's like, I don't know if this guy is really, like, should he be out there doing stuff that draws hatred towards Koreans? And he's working for this guy named, what was his name? Benny Johnson, I think, a white guy. I remember because he got fired from his job, and for his, you know, his employer, I guess, found some things that he said online or something like that, and he got fired. And then he made a tweet about it, and then I think by the end of the day, he was hired by that Benny Johnson guy, who I guess I don't really know about him. I just know he's a white guy who's apparently a conservative influencer or something like that. And anyway, I'm not a fan of his, but I'll still talk. I don't know, yeah, personally, but yeah, I don't know his real views. And when I see his podcast now, I see him, I don't know, I see the marketing, you know, the white cross and then the flag and like the 47 or whatever the 40, I don't know. Okay. I'm actually more about implementation, the ideology, because I like martial arts. If my style is the best, but what's important is what goes down in the ring or real life. You might want casual, but Koreans aren't the casual kind. They like to go way overboard. Yo, you lost weight, bro. Just do the show all by yourself. I think you're cool. Please come on my show for an interview. You know, come on your show. I mean, again, we got to schedule it, but, you know, my schedule is I just happened to do this on a whim because it was Friday night. I was about to go home, and then I was like, you know what? We just set up that studio a few days ago. Let me try out live and let me see how this works. But yeah, let's get in contact, Elf. I'll do a interview, whatever. And then what is this? OG Shralp Nerd. My hot take on the Doug situation is you actually liked him and respected him for his outspokenness, as we all did and do. But he is a bit too high on his own farts, so he can be a bit too smug. Okay, that's your opinion. I mean, and DJ Elf agrees. Okay. I will say that when I first came across Doug, he was on Twitter. I would see his tweets, and I liked his tweets. He was, I think he had read Malcolm X's autobiography, and Malcolm X's autobiography is, I don't know. I just keep going back, and I feel like that's probably the most. I can't imagine it is, but it feels like it might be the most influential book I've read. Maybe, I don't know, because that's like the one book that I think about a lot. But and he was a Malcolm X fan, and I don't remember exactly the thing, but I reached out to him, and then we were chatting here and there, and at the time he was not a communist yet. And then I was also in touch with this other guy who was, I guess, pretty big in the Asian American activist field. Some guy by the name of Albert Huh, another Korean American, and we had how I got in touch with this guy Albert. I guess he was pretty infamous back in the day, but we had this thing on Facebook in this Asian group. Like, we had this thing, and then he was like, "Yo, give me your number or something, or here's my number, call me or something." And I called him. Anyway, it started off very crazy, and this was maybe like 8 years ago. But eventually, we became cool, and then apparently he knew Doug, and then I remember he told me he was trying to turn Doug into a communist or something. But eventually, and I remember Doug back in 2006, the World Series of Poker. The number one winner there was this guy named Jamie Gold, who I knew. I knew that guy, number one. Jamie Gold, he won, I think, $12 million. He was like, because at the time we weren't friends, but it's like I knew him in passing, and I'd see him once in a while in the Palisades where I lived at the time. And I remember at the time, Jamie Gold drove like a Dodge Neon, I think. Yeah. But he was going to the World Series of Poker, and then like a week later, my friend was like, "Hey, did you see Jamie? He's on the World Series of Poker. It looks like he's going to win everything." But I remember seeing the name like Doug Kim. I was like, "Oh, there's a Korean up there," and he was like a young Korean guy, and I was like, "Oh, how cool!" There's like a young Korean dude at the World Series of Poker, and then he won like a couple $1 million. Was it like 2.5 million? I think something like that. So I knew of him back then, and then later to see him like 15 or 12, 13, 14 years later on Twitter, and he's like, saying some pretty cool radical things and some, really strong things. I was like, wow, this is like a strong Asian guy, like strong Korean American guy. And I was like, wow, this is like, I feel like, him, he must be smart. He did the poker thing, and, he made a lot of money, and, he went to, I think, was it Duke? Anyway, he's a smart guy, did something that very few people can do. And look how strong he is, like how tough he talks, and how, he knows what he's talking about. And that's why I wanted to reach out to him, because I'm like, wow, this guy's smart. Like, I want to know this guy. And my idea was, I don't consider myself a leader. I'm not, but I wanted to support a leader, or who I felt could be leaders. And when I saw Doug, I saw like, wow, this guy has potential to be a great leader in the Korean American or Asian American community. I mean, I was looking at it from multiple angles. Like, he's tall, he's not a bad looking guy. He's super smart, Duke degree and all that. He's got that poker fame, and he's read Malcolm X. He's talks tough, all this stuff. So that's why I reached out to him. But I got to know him, and you can't judge a book by its cover or what you see on social media or whatever. I don't know, but as I got to know him, I realized, okay, some of these things are, yeah, and then some of these other things are not what I thought. But he's still smart, he's still entertaining, he still has valuable things to say, even if a lot of what he says I think is wrong, but a lot of valuable stuff comes out too. There's so much more I could say, but I don't want to say that here. But I still looked up to him as like he's a smart guy. I'm not saying I see him as above me, but yeah. But so I would look for these Korean Americans or Asian Americans who I felt have potential to be like leaders to help I don't know, improve our community or something, because I'm not the guy. I'm very introverted. I like to, yeah, I don't like to really put myself out there that much. Yeah, because look at my, as they say, face for radio. And yeah, but I have to say that through my experiences, I'm kind of done with that. Like, I'm not trying to, I don't care to try and I've stopped looking for potential in people and seeing if they can be good for the community or whatever. I'm just it's like I don't want to get involved in that anymore. I'm 45 years old now, and I'm tired, and I don't know, I feel I've been backstabbed too much. And I know, the other side, they may feel that they were backstabbed as well. But yeah, I've learned that the people that you give the most, that you try to be, that you believe in the most, maybe, they can be the ones who try to hurt you the most afterwards. I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. Okay. But yeah, Doug, I don't know what he's up to now. I think last I saw he was doing live streams, and I know he still has crypto money, and I'm sure he's fine. So okay, 88DA12, long time no see, missed your podcast. Thank you. OG Shroud Nerd, but best episodes for me were you, Michael, Ed, and Doug. Yeah, Michael won. Yeah, he was yeah. You got the liberal, the kind of the evangelical conservative, the MAGA communist, I guess, and then me. I mean, frankly, I don't know if I ever made my views really known on the show, but I don't know enough about political theory and all that to be I'm this or that. But I don't think I'm a capitalist. In terms of communism, if people call me a communist, I don't deny it. I'm just like, whatever, fine, call me a communist. But it's just kind of like the problem that I see with communists is communists themselves. Like communists tend to be very, and I'm not just talking about Doug or whatever, but just communists in general, from what I've seen, they're always like arguing with one another about who's a real communist. It's like I've seen a lot of Christians like, oh, they're not a real Christian. They're not. So for me, it's just kind of like, ugh, like, okay. And, it kind of makes me feel like, do I really want to be label myself like when that's what I see among them? But, I do believe that, in the year 2026, and especially with all this AI stuff going on, I don't think capitalism is the answer to manage the world or society, where capital is, the needs of capital are put above the needs of humanity or whatever. And I believe in this day and age, like we have to reorganize our society. We can't see capitalism as the final stage of human development or, of governance or whatever, like forever for the rest of mankind, it's just going to be capitalism. No, I think we have to evolve beyond this, whatever it's called, socialism, communism, or whatever other term or system, but we have to at least have the discussion. So for me, it was always about, let's just have the discussion. But yeah, I'm not opposed to communism, and, I look at China, I look at the CCP. Frankly, I support the CCP. I don't really support, someone I know said this. He's like, I love the CCP, but I don't like Chinese people. I kind of understand that, because I won't get into it, but it's like, when personal interactions, or you see the tourists or whatever. But anyway, yeah. And I support the, I mean, what am I going to say? I don't support it? Like, what, they should be overthrown? Yeah, so. Let's see. DJ Elf, I also liked Young. He was super cool. Yeah, Young was great. Fred Lee, are you returning? When are you going to Moby's coffee shop and get Young? When am I going to go to Moby's coffee shop? I don't know. They have good burgers. If you go to Young's restaurant, Moby's coffee shop in Inglewood, get the burger. If you just like classic cheeseburgers, they have a really good burger. I don't know if they have chili cheese fries though. But anyway, they have a really good classic cheeseburger. What else? K Kim, do you still talk to Doug? No. I think in my one-on-one interactions with him, for the most part, I've been very respectful to him, and for the most part, I don't think I've ever like insulted him, or. But I think for the most part, I've been very respectful. Through text message or email or whatever. On the flip side, I can't say, and he would probably acknowledge this himself, he hasn't always been respectful to me. And quite frankly, he would get ideas in his head. I think he's kind of a paranoid person, because he would think that I was working behind the scenes against him and like trying to hurt him or something, which I'm not going to go too deeply into, because it's a little too sad. I don't know, but I don't know. It might come from his own trauma or whatever, but I was on his side, but he would see me as like someone who's trying to hurt him and was like going against him. At times he would see me as like a person who was like his enemy. Anyway, okay, OG Shrelp Nerd, Young was enjoyable for me. Both him and Michael always had that fresh off the boat aura about them, which is sort of funny and endearing. Yeah, Michael moved here, I think, when he was in college. And then Young, he actually moved here when he was young. He was like 10, I think. And he grew up in the San Fernando I think he was in Alaska first, and then he grew up in the San Fernando Valley. I think he graduated from Granada Hills High School. Anyway, they were both born in '76, and they were working at Radio Korea initially as director. Michael Wan was a director of news, and Young Kim was director of production. And I brought them in at the same time. I think it was November 2022. And my intention was eventually, like, they could do a show together. They would be pretty funny together. But I wanted, I don't want to get into the details, but yeah, they were really great. And, I think they're the same age. They're similar age. I think they're only like a month off, and they both live in the South Bay, and they both have kids, and yeah, and they're both like conservative dudes, and, they had a real friendship too. Yeah. Fred Lee asks, how much of a sponsor do you need to bring Ktown Social Club back in full power? I don't know. I mean, because you need somebody to do the social media, the editing, the uploading, the booking the guests, the coordination, and just research. Just off the top of my head, I would say, I don't know, a safe number would be like $2,000 an episode. Okay, and DJ Elf says, I got to interview Jane Kim, who I think is going to win insurance commissioner for California. I think she's a good interview also. I met the grandson of Dozan An Chang-ho. Are you talking about Flip Cuddy? Anyway, Mad Korean, host of Eastern Bound podcast. I've heard of, you guys, if you miss Ktown Social Club, check out this other podcast. It's called Eastern Bound. It's kind of I've only heard like maybe 3 episodes because I'm so busy I can't hear everything, but I would say I think it's a more serious version of Ktown Social Club, and they're more deep into, like, it might be more in depth, I think. So check it out, Eastern Bound. And I think I talked to Eastern Bound guys about maybe even appearing on Ktown Social Club when it returns, and it would be great to have them on. I think one of them, Mad Korean, I believe, lives in Ktown, and the other 2, I think one lives in Chicago and the other lives in Australia. So actually, we could actually set that up, Mad Korean in the studio and then the other 2 on Zoom. Okay, DJ Elf, I'm not that impressed by Doug. DJ Elf, yo, don't worry about having co-hosts. You're solid, bro. Just a show by yourself, I would watch it 100%. MLK said there's no great disappointment where there is no great love, but don't worry about Doug. He's not helping anyone. He's a theory guy, not a hands-on helper. OG Shroud Nerd. Michael, I live in Southeast Asia now and super private, but I do have a very interesting backstory for a nobody Asian guy who grew up on the East Coast. If you're up for it, maybe I can zoom in something. Yeah, sure, why not? I plan to retire in Southeast Asia, actually. My options were basically Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand. Philippines has the easiest situation for U.S. citizens for visas. Like, you can literally just stay there for like 3 years and before you actually have to leave the country, I think. And Thailand is, I think, second easiest. I actually have a DTV visa for Thailand. It's like a 5-year visa, but you got to leave like every year at least. But even in Thailand, if you, with that visa, if I stay there more than 6 months a year, I've been considered a Thai resident. Then I got to pay taxes there based on income that I bring into the country. And then Vietnam is actually my number 1 choice, but they don't have like a retirement visa or anything like that. So anyway, yeah, where do you live in Southeast Asia, by the way? I'm just curious. Anyway, it's Fred Lee. Just come back with you and Young at first to get Ktown Social Club going again. Oh, that's an interesting idea. Maybe, yeah. DJ Elf. Yeah, Young and Mike is good enough. I'm all for it. Mad Korean. Hi. Hello. DJ Elf. Dermot Hudson is interesting and accessible. How about having him on the show? Yeah, why not? I actually talked to him about 12 years ago. I think he had a book that I bought about 12 years ago. Mad Korean, you're welcome. Yeah, Flip Cuddy. Yeah, I met him at the. We've interviewed him before on some programs, and I met him at the 100-year anniversary of the March 1st movement, which was, what year was that? That was 1919. So in the year 2019, he had that original flag, I think, that they were all carrying for the independence, whatever. And I think it was at the Oxford Palace Hotel in Koreatown. So I was there. They took a group photo, but I didn't participate in the group photo. I don't know. I felt kind of awkward, but I just watched it. Do I have opinions on Flip Cuddy? No, I don't really know him that well. I know that he used to do a podcast called he did a podcast with this guy called some Korean guy who does like traditional like instruments or something, but I think it was called In the Kimchi Jar podcast. Years ago I listened to it, and I remember Flip, he would, I didn't really remember. I just remember like, wow, he knows a lot of stuff about like Korean American history or something. OG Shrout Nerd, actually been in the Philippines for a couple of years, but I'm going back to Thailand very soon. Lived there before a few times, lived in Vietnam too. Oh, you're partially Viet. Where in Philippines are you? Because if I was going to live in the Philippines, my idea was to live in Iloilo. I've been to Manila, I've been to Cebu. I haven't been to Iloilo, but it looks like my kind of vibe there. Anyway, so yeah, wow, I actually have 17 people watching this. 15 now. Okay, sorry. So yeah, I didn't even prepare anything. Maybe I should prepare some topics, but yeah. And I've actually done this longer than I expected to. It's been an hour. What happened to Ed? So really what happened was last year, I mean, it's no secret that radio is not a thriving industry. Radio is going down every year. And, it's like, we already expected that. We know that, we still have our website. Our website's still popular and all this, but last year, so we've been seeing decreases every year in radio. Like, we know that. That's understandable. But last year, after Trump kicked off his tariff wars, that really hurt us bad. Like, suddenly, like, a lot of our advertisers who were getting stuff from China, they were like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen. And there was one advertiser in tears, like, oh, my goods are stuck here now. Like, what do I do? Like, it was really like, so like, instead of the expected decrease, it was like, bam, and like, it hit us really hard. And eventually, and then I was getting really busy too, because we had to move to Orange County and all this. And then Ktown Social Club, like I said, it was not a money, it was like an endless, it was just like throwing money away basically. And so initially I asked Ed to host the show, which I'm thankful that he hosted the show, and I think Ed did a great job as a host. He was, I think, quite neutral, and I think balanced it pretty well. But yeah, after a while of that, eventually it's like, all right, well, we got to just stop doing it altogether, because we just couldn't invest the resources. And and it's not just the payment to the host, which wasn't a lot. It was small, like yongton, lunch money kind of. But it was also our full-time staff. It would take up a lot of their time, filming and coordinating and editing and uploading and social media and all this stuff. And that was where the real, and we had to have them focus more on our radio and all that stuff. And so it was like, all right, you know what? We just have to stop it. And we did come out with some videos after that, but that's because I was going to Korea anyway. I was actually going to China for an ad conference. There's an Ad Asia conference, networking and trying to make deals, which was in Beijing. But on that trip, I also stopped in Seoul to meet Hank because Hank said he would do an interview. So I found a podcast studio in Seoul, and Hank was like down to do it. And he's kind of different in person. Like he's more polite than you'd think. So I don't know. I think some of it is like a performance for the camera. Some of it, but not all of it. So a lot of that's very real. But to me, he was very respectful and yeah. But yeah, we did that there, and then yeah. So that was done from Korea, and then I was in, and then when I was in Vietnam, my friend, uh, he was, you know, Korean American guy from LA who's been living in Vietnam, who's been living in Southeast Asia for like 15 years. I was like, well, let me talk to this guy, you know. So I found a podcast studio out in Da Nang, operated by a Russian dude, um, and you know, so we did that there. And then at the same time, Xiang Yu, who's in Taiwan, he offered to like do some kind of like food video, you know. He's like, you know, so I sent him a Radio Korea shirt, and he was like, him and his friends or whatever, they filmed it, and then they sent us the footage, and then our team here edited the footage, and we released that. And those were the last three things that we came out with. So anyway, let's see. So yeah, anyway, that's what happened to Ed. Is like, you know, I had to. Radio Korea couldn't fund or put resources into the show anymore, so that means Ed and Hajin and I think David Yoon was also on at that time. They couldn't do it anymore. I mean, you know, we couldn't do it anymore. But I'm willing to do it again now because once in a while, because I know how to, or I think I can figure out how to do all the stuff myself now in our new studio. Like I think I can manage it myself. So I won't have to use company resources to do this anymore. It'll just be like out of my own free time. So yeah, I'd like to do it, you know, once in a while at least. Oh, so OG Schraubner says Cebu and Manila. Yeah, you know, I like Cebu, the what did you call it? Il Corso area. It was nice to just walk around there, and yeah, I would probably just live around there and just walk around there. It was nice. Social justice warrior that dogs people. Oh, you're talking about, okay. You should do more food stuff and showcase Korean business. Yeah, you know, those kinds of videos like where, you know, beyond Ktown or where I was like eating a burger or whatever. Yeah, you know, we did that video where we were in Vegas, and we made a bunch of videos in Vegas. We were going to Vegas. Some of us, we were going there for like a show, the National Association of Broadcasters show, to check out the latest equipment and software and all this stuff. And since we were out there, I was like, you know what, we're out here anyway, might as well get some content out of it. So we had like a GoPro and some cameras or whatever, and then that's why when we were out in Vegas, we filmed like, you know, just walking around the show, and then we went to a steakhouse one night, and then we went to a really nice buffet. We didn't film that though. We're like, you know, let's just enjoy the food, and then I think we went to a Sanlongtang place and ate Home Shopping World, because Home Shopping World is like one of our biggest advertisers here. They got location in Koreatown, Buena Park, and they have the Vegas place. So yeah, and you know, I'd like to do more of those, but the editing is the issue there. So yeah, it takes a lot of time to edit and add all the elements and everything. When is the last time I spoke to Young and had a Moby's burger? I talked to Young a few months ago. You know, Young was doing a radio show on Radio Korea from like 3 to 5 p.m. and that show that ended up maybe 2 months ago. So I was seeing him almost every day here. You know, it was, yeah. But I haven't been to Moby's in a couple years, probably since I filmed that Beyond K-Town thing at his restaurant. Let's see. I'm on public access TV in media exchange program with other. I can help you get your stuff on airwaves in New York City for free. Okay, cool. Hire the younger gen to run the YouTube and socials. Brooklyn and Bronx, Manhattan. I can provide fully edited episodes of film content. Nice to see you back, brother. You looking younger for some reason. Korean skincare? I don't know. Maybe I'm less stressed. I've been getting white hairs. Like suddenly, like in the last month, like multiple white hairs appeared on the side here. So I don't know if I'm looking younger. Maybe the camera's doing something. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know what else to say here. Ktown Social Club was great. I want to do it, but yeah. If I do it on my own, I don't know. I'd like to have a conversation. I don't want to just talk. Like I've been doing it now for like 71 minutes, but yeah. Why don't you visit Young at Moby's and surprise him out of the blue and film it and then pitch him Ktown Social Club return? I mean, I could just call him. Should I call him? He might be sleeping because he has to open up the restaurant. He has to wake up really early for that. So, and it's Friday. I don't want to bother him on a Friday. But yeah, it would be great to have him back. Yeah, Young would be great. Frankly, a lot of them would be great to have, but I just worry about my mental health. And I don't know how many of you saw that drama with Radio Korea back in November when suddenly Radio Korea was called out on social media, like, stop spreading misinformation about gay people or something, because one of our hosts said some dumb shit about gay people, like how she can't support it, and if her child was gay, she would like send them to like what do you call therapy to make them not gay or whatever, and also like talking about how AIDS spread a lot. Like I don't know, like the stuff that you shouldn't say, like stuff that it's like, why are you saying, like, who says that anymore? Like, and Doug, or not Doug, why am I saying Doug? David Kim, who ran for Congress, he made that post like condemning us on American social media, like this Korean station that Korean people in LA listen to. He's like calling us out in front of the whole world on Instagram, causing us to get all these crazy fucking phone calls and nasty like messages, and I was like, at the time I was just like, what the fuck? Like, why is David Kim doing this? Like, who's had his back in Korean media anyway more than me? And now this is how he. And it's like, I did so much. It was just such a betrayal. Someone who, like, and from his perspective, because, he texted me about it first. But because I didn't respond for like 4 hours, he decided to go public with that. And I didn't respond because my phone was in the US and I was in Thailand. I was in a hospital. I was getting a full medical checkup because I have some health issues. And it's a lot cheaper to do that full checkup thing in Thailand than it is in the US. You know, I was getting tested for like 8 hours, doing this and that and this and that. And on top of that, I was already feeling really sick, like I was getting a flu. It was like the day after I think the Dodgers won the World Series. I think it was. Wasn't it? Yeah, I think I was on the plane to Thailand, and then when I landed, it was like, oh, the Dodgers won, or something like that. I think it was something like that. But I think it was the next day I was at the hospital, like all like from like 7 a.m. to like 2 or 3 p.m. And then after that was from the next day was supposed to be like finally like my vacation. And so I was only in Bangkok for like one night to do that medical checkup. And then the next day I went down to, it's a city called Hua Hin. And Hua Hin is like 3 hours, 3, 4 hours south of Bangkok. And it's like this retirement beach city. It's like pretty chill. It's not like crazy like Phuket or Pattaya. It's like pretty chill there. You know, you go there to relax. And that's where I was going to finally have my relaxation. But I was already feeling sick because I remember when I flew into Thailand from Cebu. And I remember when I was at the Cebu airport, this Indian guy in the immigration line, like in front of me, at one point, I guess he had a stuffy nose and he was like sick or something. In the line, he's just like, you know, like all just, and I was just like, whoa, 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 like what the F? But anyway, by the time like my checkup in Bangkok was over and everything, and they're like, all right, we'll have all your test results for you in like a few days or like a week or whatever. And then after the hospital, I got into like a cab and I went down, took the 3, 4 hour drive down to Hua Hin to finally relax. And I got there like, I think early evening. And then right across from the hotel, there was like an Italian restaurant. So I just had like I think I had like a pasta and like garlic bread or something. And then what else? I don't think I did much after that. And then I think I went to the hotel. And then again, I was sick. I was starting to feel really sick. And then I fell asleep. And then I woke up the next morning because my phone was like going crazy. And it was like all these messages from like people at work, like, oh my God, did you see this? Did you see this? But now it's like overnight I got really sick. So I'm like, my throat feels like 1,000 knives in my throat. And it's like, I feel really sick. And then it's like, what's going on? Like, oh, David Kim posted all this shit and like there's all this drama going on. We're getting like angry, this and that. It's like 7 a.m. for me. And I think in LA at the time it was like 10 p.m. So by then the damage had been done for like 5, 6 hours or something like that. And now I'm like super sick and I'm just like, oh my God, now I got to deal with this now. And it's like my first day of vacation. It's like I hadn't taken a vacation in years. Well, I guess you could, I mean, like a real proper vacation in years, like where I just went to just fucking relax. Not with anybody, just fucking relax. And that's what happens. And yeah, that's why I couldn't respond to David. And he only waited 4 hours. Like I had been on his side for like 6 fucking years. Donated for him, fucking helped promote him. He even worked at Radio Korea as a director. I gave him the title he wanted, even though he couldn't fully dedicate himself to here because he was campaigning a lot in 2022. If he wanted the interview, or if he didn't like comments, like, can you turn off the comments? Or when I interviewed him the first time, he's like, can you take this out of the interview? After I spent all night editing it, because I didn't know how to edit back then. He's like, can you take this out? Can you take that out? Like, I always did shit for him. Like, always was like there for him. And it's like, oh, okay, because I didn't respond for 4 hours, you just do that? Like, whoa. It's like, I'm thinking back, like, all that shit I did for him, or for him, or to appease him, or to satisfy him, I'm like, I guess he came to expect it, like it was normal. Like, of course Michael should do this for me. Of course he should respond right away. Of course he should. Like I'm his servant or something. And I guess he got used to that. One thing, and and I eventually, my whole trip was ruined by, because I was just thinking about that every day, all day. Even if I'm walking along the beach trying to relax, even if I'm getting a massage, even if I'm just trying to relax with a beer. I don't really drink beer, but I did have like 2 beers in Thailand. That was always on my mind. And then it was just so like messed up that he would do that to me. And eventually I came back to the US, and then I had to take care of work stuff because a lot of stuff had piled up. And then finally I felt like, okay, now I have to respond to this David Kim thing. And then I released a video, which, I released on, Instagram or whatever, to basically, say, yeah, the host said these things that are not right. And, here's the correct information. But, this isn't fair because David Kim did whatever. And I gave the whole context. One thing that I left out, which I'll share here, that show that the host lady said that stuff about gay people, that was on a morning show that's on from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And it was, at the time, it was hosted by 3 ladies. And it was kind of like kind of our version of The View, like 3 Korean ladies, single and married, with children, without children, and they all share their ideas and stuff like that. And yeah, one of those ladies is the one who said that stuff about gay people. The other 2 ladies, they don't think that way. They actually disagree with it, but they didn't say anything. Now, David Kim, when he put up that clip of that host saying that, the clip that he posted also shows one of the other hosts, not the 3rd host, but the host that sits next to that host that said the gay stuff. What I thought was kind of relevant information, but he left out, is that other host that was sitting next to that host is David's relative. Like is like married into his family or something like that. And he's the one that told me about her. He's the one that, I got the resume from him or whatever. And he was like, and that's why we hired her, or why we gave her resume priority, because through David's connection. So we hired her and we put her on that show. Now, why didn't David get upset with his relative for not correcting that information? And why is he trying to hurt the whole company, which he knows that I run, which he knows the company that is, I believe, has helped him, the Korean media company that has helped him the most. It was just really, like, from my point of view, like really fucked up. Like really fucked up. And on top of that, there were collaborators on this Instagram post. One of them was this another Korean American influencer. He's like Korean and Filipino, Nathan Ramos Park, who actually is a friend of Doug's. I think they were roommates before. But Nathan is a gay Korean Filipino guy, and he works. I think he's like anyway, he works in Hollywood, or he works on movies or TV shows or something. He's like a writer, I think. And he was on a few episodes, or at least one episode of Ktown Social Club. And he did another video for Radio Korea called where we explored a Filipino town. And he kind of introduced Filipino town to us and Filipino food to like our Korean audience. And man, he went really hard at us too. Like not only did he collaborate on the post, he made his own videos about Radio Korea and was like, fuck Radio Korea. And he was like making fun of, he was like talking shit about the host's appearance, calling her Jigsaw. And like, he was saying, I'm going to make sure Radio Korea can't function. And then he was like calling me out, like, why haven't you texted me or called me? Like, like your sins are public. I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, and it's like this guy, a few years back, I think he posted a story about how him and his friends in K-Town, they were like victims of a hate crime or something for being gay. And I remember I asked one of our reporters, Reporter Bong, who's, he's like decades of experience of, writing and doing journalism. He talked to Nathan and like did a whole story about it. Like we covered that. What other Korean media covered that? And yet that's how he sees, like that's what he did. And who else collaborated on that video with David Kim was, unfortunately, Ed Choi. I don't think I've ever done anything wrong to him. I know, like, there's some backstory, like, where he may feel he was betrayed. But, maybe I feel the same way, but I don't think I've ever done anything to hurt him. Like, I feel like he's only gained from me. I could be wrong, but as I think, like, and for him to join in on that campaign against us, I was like, wow, that's amazing. Anyway, and then Nathan's video against us, which he also posted on TikTok. Apparently Ed had commented on that video, and somebody took a screenshot and sent it to me like, oh, look what Ed said about you. And he basically has something along the lines of like criticizing me for interviewing Hank Yu, like as if I do that just for clicks or views or whatever. No, it's because I'm interested. I'm curious about Hank. He's fascinated me from the beginning, even when he was like the Confederate guy back when he was still in the US. I was like, how does this happen to a person? How does a person get this way? That was more about my fascination with trying to learn about Hank and get into his mind. And like the fact that like, and I thought he would know me enough to know that I'm not doing that for views, really, because again, the show doesn't make money, and we only have like a few thousand subscribers. It's like, it's fucking like whatever. It's like I gave up on, I never even intended this to be a moneymaker, and whatever even thoughts I had, like I never even took it seriously. Like I never cared enough to be like, oh, let me get views. It was just more like, it's my curiosity, what I want to do. And I have to say, like a lot of people were against me even interviewing DJ Elf even. I don't want to say who, but they were just like, why? Like, and I guess because, I don't know, for whatever reason. But I was curious, like, okay, like they thought he's not a good person to interview for whatever reason. I'm like, well, I'm kind of curious about him. I want to talk to this guy. Like, I want to try to understand this. Like, even though I don't fully get it either, but I want to try to understand it. So it was always about like what I want to do. And I'm not so calculated as some. I've seen, over the last few years, running Radio Korea and meeting all kinds of influencers, and I see behind the scenes how calculated and how much thought goes into, you know, there's a lot of thought that goes into it. And, me, it's just kind of like, boom, put it out there. So, which is probably why, even when I try to be an influencer, because I thought it would help Radio Korea, I failed miserably. Because if you look at my Instagram, it's like a fucking, it's like a bunch of nonsense. There's like a food video, and then there's like some fucking political thing, and then there's like some other nonsense or some footage from China. It's just like all over the place. There's no like coherent, branding or messaging or, yeah, it's just me. So I gave up on that too, but I don't know where I'm trying to get at this, but maybe from the comments. I had your back when that popped off. F cancel culture. David Kim is okay, but Radio Korea is bigger than David Kim in my. It's okay to be Chris. Stop worrying about that. That's what you get when you work with progressives. Come on, man. It's like the scorpion and the frog. You're gonna get stung. That's what they do. What about your thoughts of BTS and the Grammys? I don't really know. I think I just heard that they're not gonna participate or something, which is like, okay, fine. Like, isn't Grammys an American thing anyway? Or Grammys, yeah, isn't it? So it's like, why would they? I don't know. It's like, fine. I don't really, Elf says, fuck the Grammys. BTS is right. Are you sure you're Korean? You're way too sensitive. Toughen up, my boy. You did nothing wrong. I know I didn't do anything wrong. But, hey, people that you were kind of close to and people that you believed in, people that you supported, they fucking stab you in the back. How can you not feel anything from that? I'm not a fucking robot. Let's see. Someone is all about clout. He shouldn't say shit about I will say that guy has a lot of haters. And a lot of his not a lot. 2 of his haters have contacted me. And I don't ask them, I don't even, but they just send me all kinds of, and I told them like, yo, honestly, I unfollowed him because I'm sorry. It was kind of triggering for me. It was just reminding me of the past. And I was like, I think it's better if I just unfollow him. And, I also removed him from my follower list because I don't want to like block. That's kind of petty, but it's like, I don't want to feel bad. And like, it's triggering. And people were sending me stuff. And finally I told them like, yo, can you stop? Like, I already unfollowed him. I don't want to know this stuff about him anymore. I don't want to think about him. I don't want to whatever. But the stuff that I was being sent was like, I don't know, like fucking private investigators. I don't know. There's like some crazy shit that people sent me. And I was just like, whoa, like, I'm surprised none of this has come out. But like, anyway, I don't want to get involved in that. And, he got into it with this poker player. Not Doug, but this other poker player that we all know. Another Korean guy. He's a family man. He's got like a wife and kids. I think, he lives in Korea, but he's like Canadian. He's from Canada or whatever. And he said something about Ed, which I'm not going to do that. I don't, especially with that harsh language, that's not me. But Ed saw that and, he got mad. And of course, I would get mad if someone said shit like that about me. But then Ed made like Instagram stories about this guy, or 1 or 2, whatever. And I forgot what he said about him. But he even used my initials, MK, and claimed that I said something about this guy. like, oh, MK says behind your back that you're like a failed influencer or something. I was like, when the fuck did I ever say that? Because this guy's a poker player. He's not an influencer. Like, it's just so bizarre that he would make that claim about me to his hundreds of thousands of followers. Like, it's just, I was just like, what the fuck? How do you just make shit up like that? And I hadn't talked to him in months by then, but I messaged him. I said, I never said that, which he never responded to. And I was like, man, this guy's a scary guy. If someone can have that big of an audience and can just easily just have that come out, like, wow, that's a lot of power, and that power is being abused, I think. Yeah, I don't know, just anyway, after that happened, I was just like, I was kind of freaked out by that. I'm like, whoa, like he's personally, like, knowing him, like, he's a nice guy, friendly, easy to get along with and all that, but and he's pretty chill, like, in person. We've had good times, good meals and all that, but knowing that he has that in him, I was scared by it. Like, that scared me. Like Doug, on the other hand, he doesn't scare me. Like, Doug, you know who he is. He is, he puts himself out there, he's like, this is me, like, fuck you and all this, right? You know what you're getting with Doug. And even if he says something that's not true, or something that I don't think it's true, to me it's very obvious, so it's like, all right, whatever. It's easy to tell. It's easy to see. But another person who may have a huge following, that has the respect of so many people, who many people look up to and admire and see as a leader, and someone who does do good stuff and brings light to important issues and has done many good things, also has that side to him. That is so scary, so dangerous. And I realized, wow, like, yeah, I realized, like, I think I have to keep my distance from him, because there's no telling what can come out of his mouth if he feels angry. And it's like, rather than, like, I don't even want to risk getting him angry, like, because again, I'm too old for this shit. I got a company to run. I don't want to deal with more drama after that last experience with David Kim and the whole gang of liberal, progressive, whatever. Oh boy. So that being said, whatever, like, I have no ill will towards Ed or Doug, or yeah, I have no ill will towards them. I hope we can all move on peacefully and grow as people. I'm very well aware of my flaws. I have many flaws, and I think I'm my own harshest critic, and I'm constantly working to improve myself every year. And if someone criticizes me or says something horrible about me, whatever, I don't immediately reject it. I actually try to absorb it, like, Why did they say that? From what perspective? Is that true? Am I this way? Like, did I really do that? Because I don't always. Anyway, but that's me. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this, but all right. I actually like Ed better than Doug, but yeah, fuck cancel culture and the judging. That shit is whack, but I still love the show. We got your back, Mike. Thanks, man. Korean. I think it makes him feel good about himself canceling people. Yeah, and the big thing that happened last year was, have you guys heard of like H Mart Gate? Apparently, there was like there was like a young Asian girl, like half white, half Asian girl, who made some kind of skit video or some kind of video where she's like, when she sees white people at an Asian grocery store, she can't help but give a side eye or something like that to them, which I understand comes from, I mean, we all have that story. When I was in elementary school, I remember my Mexican classmate friend, he brought his Mexican lunch to school, and it was like rice and beans and like carne asada or whatever, and like tortillas. Man, that shit looked good. And because the school lunch, the hot lunch, I think it was like $2, $2.50 or whatever it was. It would be like really horrible stuff, like a little carton of milk and like mac and cheese, or like a really shitty square like pizza thing, or I just remember it was really bad. But anyway, the Mexican kid brought his like plate, and everyone was like, wow, that looks so good. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna bring Korean food. Let me see if this helps me get some friends. And I remember when I brought my Korean food, there was like kimchi and all that. Again, everyone, I think most Asian people have this kind of story. The kids were grossed out by it. Even the two white teachers were like, they were talking amongst themselves, and they said, that looks disgusting. I remember that. This was like 1987. So Ronald Reagan. And it's like, and then 15, 16, 20 years later, it's like, oh, Korean barbecue is a big thing now. They all love kimchi and all this, especially now. So I think that's what this Asian girl, or this half white, half Asian girl, she was making this video like, hey, I have trauma from you white people from when I was young. Like, why are you here now? You like this now? Like, what's going on? I felt that's what it was about. But anyway, some Asian American creators, like big ones, including him and some others, basically kind of went after her, and they have like, collectively they had millions of followers, and apparently they were primarily white followers, from what I hear. I don't know, because I don't check their followers. And this Asian girl, she ended up getting a lot of death threats and harassments and all this. Anyway, eventually, from what I recall, the black TikTokers, or whatever, the black community on TikTok, it's weird. Instagram and TikTok are like completely different worlds, So a bunch of black people on TikTok, or the black TikTok community, whatever, picked up on this, and they were all in support of this Asian girl. Like, hey, we understand. And then they started coming after these big Asian creators. I think one of them is, I don't want to, well, yeah, two big Korean American female creators, and then him. So I think they were the three. And then eventually they all had to, apparently, they all had to apologize for, what happened. And there was a, I don't know my point in sharing this, but I would think after something like that, after experiencing something like that, making content where someone is portrayed as a bad person or whatever, and getting a lot of views from that, and then later having it blow back on you where people are saying, hey, you were the wrong one. I don't know, if that was me, I think it would be a very humbling experience, and I'd be very careful about doing that, and maybe not doing that kind of like, this person's bad, like, I don't know. That's all I can really say on that. Everyone loves kimchi now. Sounds like more progressive BS. If people like our shit, that's cool. What's your current ongoing vision for Radio Korea? Well, I spent years trying to save the radio. I thought, as long as the radio quality gets better or whatever, like, it'll work. But I don't think that's the case anymore. I think no matter what happened, what you do to improve radio, it cannot compete against all the online content out there. Because with actual radio, you have FCC guidelines, you have commercials, and whatever, all these restrictions, whereas people on the internet are just, they can be free and spontaneous, so it's hard to compete against that. So I think it's, I think Samsung started as a grocery store, I think, but look at it now. So that might be a clue as to, okay, well, Radio Korea started off as a radio station, but it can be something else later. So we'll see on that. Mike got to turn conservative with the liberals. Keep disappointing him like this. I think he's on the edge. I'll pray for him. I'm not a I started off more on the conservative side. When I was young, I was a libertarian, and I think I leaned very conservative. And then it was the financial crisis, 2007, 2008, 2009, and working in corporate America at a Fortune 100 company and seeing how the workers there got fucked over. Basically, the company said, if you guys do really well this year and we meet certain goals, the top people of you will get to go to the Bahamas on an all expense paid trip. And and then the financial crisis hit, and then the company was like, because of the situation, we can't send you to the Bahamas anymore. Sorry, but if you guys want to go to Jersey, because that's where the headquarters were, in like Newark or whatever, we'll send you to Jersey. And then I did the math for all the people across the company that qualified for this trip and how much it would have cost. And everything would have cost like $500,000, $500,000. And then I checked the CEO's salary. It was over $10 million. And I thought, holy shit, if I was the CEO of this company and my company had made a promise to the people who qualified whatever level to go to the Bahamas, and then I took that away because the company's not doing well, wouldn't I give up 5%, 5% of my $10 million salary to fulfill that promise? And it was like, starting at that point, I was like, hey, I don't think I like this capitalist shit anymore. And that was the beginning of my like questioning, like, I don't think this is right. This is something wrong with this. But I was never, ever, ever a liberal. I have never been a liberal. Like, I always found them to be slithery snakes from the beginning. Like, so it's more like I was like a libertarian, conservative-ish type of person who then saw the reality in the business world and in Wall Street and all this, and saw how people were getting fucked over, and then Occupy Wall Street and the banks and then the ongoing wars, not just Iraq, which is how Barack Obama won, but then, within a year into Obama's presidency, he wins the Nobel Peace Prize, which I thought was bullshit. I'm like, what the fuck? It's not even been a year. It was like He went into office in January 2009, and then by like October he won a peace prize. Meanwhile, in 2011 he destroys Libya, starts bombing Syria in 2013. What was it? 2014. There was more Gaza stuff, as I recall. I mean, there's always been, but especially in 2014, as I remember. And then siding with Wall Street during Occupy Wall Street, and BLM happened under Obama. So anyway, liberals, I never supported liberals. I just kind of jumped past them and was like, all right, what else is there? I was like, oh, socialists? What, democratic? I was talking about socialism back in like 2010, I remember. Because, again, I've always been a curious person, and I was curious about North Korea since 2004 when I was going to school in like a university, like Korean language class in Korea. And I had classmates who had grown up in East Germany. They were like adults when the Berlin Wall came down, or classmates who grew up in the Soviet Union, and Japanese, Korean classmates from Japan who were regularly visiting North Korea, whose parents were doing business in North Korea. Like, I was hearing all these new ideas about communism, about the Soviet Union, about East Germany, about North Korea. It was like my mind was blown. And so it was always like, I mean, initially I was like so angry. I was like, what the fuck? Like, because I was still kind of a conservative libertarian dude, pro-America and all this. I'm like, what the fuck is all this bullshit I'm hearing, But then, it's like, I think I have an open mind, and, But eventually, I think around, again, I was never liberal, but I think around 2013 is when I finally or 2011 is when I started really getting angry, when I saw the death of Gaddafi, when I saw that they had bombed his like residence or his daughter's residence and killed his granddaughter, and like Gaddafi dragged out of a tunnel and like fucking sodomized with a knife and shot in the head and all this, and like Hillary Clinton cackling about this, and Obama's like seeing this as a victory, like some fucking Uncle Tom. And that was like when I started becoming like really like anti-imperialist, like against this war machine or whatever. But I didn't really know enough. And then I don't know, the communism thing, I don't think I ever was like, oh, I'm a communist, but it just kind of like over time, because people kept calling me a commie, I was just like, whatever, fucking go with it. Who gives a fuck? But yeah. Kenya. I don't know why somebody said Kenya. I think KHE is on edges. Well, what is that? Okay. Fuck the follower count, just be authentic and let God turn. What's Doug's last name? Kim, I think. The smaller podcasts survive with Patreon subscribers, Substack, and YouTube membership. Yeah, radio is dying, all about podcasts and streaming. Yeah, spending $2,000 an episode is super absurd. Just have some interesting guests on, like StreamYard is good enough. Radio Korea is a huge brand. Just write that shit like a champ. 97 has a summer jam. Radio Korea could have K-pop event, and I think you remember Hot 97. That's the New York hip hop station, isn't it? In 2004, there was that big tsunami in like, what was it? I think it was like Indonesia and Thailand and whatever were affected. Many people died, like tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people died. Actually, two of my friends, Korean friends, were in Koh Phi Island in Thailand, eating breakfast when the fucking tsunami waves came crashing in, and they only survived because he grabbed his girlfriend and they swam to the fucking roof of the building. But so many people died there. But Hot 97, they came out with a fucking parody song about the tsunami and how people died and shit. Like, black radio station made a fucking song making fun of all the dead Asian people. And it's like they always fucking call us anti-black or whatever. It's like, the fuck? Did we fucking go to Africa and fucking kill a bunch of black people? No. But did a bunch of black people go to Asia and kill a bunch of Asians? Yeah, a lot of black soldiers did that shit, and they raped and did all that shit too. And you notice they still fucking talk about Latasha Harlins fucking 35 years later. For every one Latasha Harlins, there's a fucking 100 Asians they fucking killed. That's why they got to keep talking about Latasha Harlins, because that's like one of the few, like, you can maybe count on one or two hands, like the total. It's like not a thing. You know, it's just like such fucking amazing gaslighting by that community. And by the fucking Asian American influencers. Like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Why the fuck are they our leaders? Like, how the fuck do people still listen to them? Like, it's like, yeah, you know, we are white supremacy, we're aligned with white supremacy or whatever, and it's like, and you know, Asians are anti-black, and that's a fucking white liberal talking point. So these Asian Americans use these fucking white liberal talking points about Asian Americans to condemn Asian Americans and have Asian Americans serve as a shield for white racists, so that instead of white people being attacked by black people, they attack the fucking Asians. And there's too many fucking goddamn Asian Americans who love to play that role, and I'm one of the good ones. Yes, our community sucks. Fuck that. Anyway, 100,000 died. Yeah, that's a lot. Any good Korean movie recommendations? Recent? No, unfortunately, I don't know of any recent ones. I just saw one in the theater the other day called The Eyes. I think the Korean title is Nundongja. It's like a horror film. Don't expect much, but it's all right. It's just, you know, a lot of Korean movies, sometimes it's just it's kind of like, why are they so stupid? You know, just kind of, or don't they have any, you know, self-survival instincts? I don't know, survival instinct, whatever. But in terms of older Korean movie recommendations that I can remember, I really liked Lee Jung-jae. You know, he did a movie that came out in 2003. I saw it in the theater in Korea in 2003. It's called Oh Brothers. Oh Brothers. And Lee Jung-jae plays the older brother, and he's got like a younger brother. And anyway, it's like a fun comedy movie. I don't think you can find it easily, but I don't know, that was always like a silly, fun movie for me. I also liked, I think a movie that came out maybe 2011, maybe 2009. It's called Castaway on the Moon. The Korean title, I think, is called Kimshi Pyoryugi. But it's called Castaway on the Moon. I think you can see that on Tubi. Another one I like, it's a little too raw and gritty. It's called Breathless, or the Korean title is Tongpari, directed by and starring Yang Ik-jun. It's a lot of domestic violence. I don't know. For me, it was kind of, it's not like good. I don't know what to say about it. It's just, don't see that if you don't want to be in a bad mood, I guess. Let's see. I Love the Mother. You know, I haven't seen that yet. Yeah. Korean drama, same story every time. You know, I watched the two main Korean dramas on Netflix now. One is called Agent Kim Reactivated, Kim Bujang, and what's the other one? Teach You a Lesson, Chamgyoyuk. They all start off strong, but then in the end, it's just kind of like, what happened? Same thing with Itaewon Class a few years ago. But anyway. Ktown was cooking with the Hankyu stuff. It was cool to see the show get mentioned on Legal Mindset, bring Ktown social back. I'm pretty sure Hank's taking Johnny Somali to court to recover. He got what he deserved, frankly. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I'm amazed that there's 20 people watching this. You know, if one of the people watching this is on the East Coast, perhaps in Florida, maybe in Miami, and has a daughter who, if you are one of the people watching this, please let me know. Because, you know, thank you for introducing me to, you know, like through you, I got to have an amazing experience at that Hollywood director's home. I don't know if you're watching, but you know, Your daughter said you are a huge fan, and yeah, thank you. So I imagine maybe Doug and Ed may also be watching. One of them maybe. Anyway, I don't want to fight with you guys. I want things to be chill. Yeah. Vitaly got really fucked up in the Philippine prison. Anyway, yeah. Someone is messaging me. You're revealing too much. Any one of those guys can record your live stream and hurt you or use it as ammunition. You should delete your live stream afterwards. It's all good. I already expected that, it's okay. I feel like maybe I'm naive to think I still have the truth behind me. So, oh, thank you. How old are you, by the way? As a Kyoko, a little bit younger, I look up to you and your perspectives you share on topics. Are you from LA? It's amazing, like, Radio Korea worked with so many, like, actors and, like, radio hosts and people who had done acting in Korea or who had done radio in Korea, people who were known and on TV and all this. And we, like, never really had problems with any of them. And then Ktown Social Club opened, like, all this, like... And so for me, from an analytical point, it's like, oh, okay, when we work with the Koreans from Korea, everything's fine. But when we work with the second generation Korean Americans, we had all this trouble. Is it because of cultural difference? Like, it's a Korean company, but they're like second gen and there's like some kind of, I don't know what it is. And, and yeah, so we kind of have like this like weariness now to work with Korean Americans, like second gen Korean Americans, because in a lot of cases, like at least 50% of the cases, there's like some kind of, difficulties later on. So I kind of, anyway. 1983. Oh, so you're only 2 years younger than me. We're both older millennials. I'm like right on the border between Gen X and millennial because I was born in January 81. But if I was born in December 80, I'd be a Gen X. So I made the millennial mark by a month. Matt Kim did come on the show, by the way. He was on the show once. Yeah. Anyway, I would like to do the show again with more Korean American people who are... I would like to do a show with a Korean American conservative, with a, hardcore leftist, a liberal, whatever. Like, I would like to get that going again. But, maybe not like influencers necessarily, but like just regular people who just are willing to talk and who have an interest in these things. That's fine too. So yeah, if you're interested, hit me up, hit me up on, the Ktown Social Club Instagram, or I think through YouTube, you can find our email address or whatever. Again, you can join via Zoom or in studio if you're in LA or OC. So, because if I do it alone, I don't really know what to talk about. I didn't even prepare anything today. Yeah. So I think it's about time to end this. It's been 2 hours and 5 minutes. Wow. I didn't think this was going to go longer than 15 minutes, but it went a while. Oh, you're 81 also. Okay, cool. We are 동갑. I like Doug. I'm a lefty. Am I in the minority? I'm also a New Yorker. No, I know Doug has. I mean, he has his fans. I mean, he's still a communist. I believe he's still a communist, and left-leaning Korean Americans. Sure, why not? I think you're in the minority to be a communist. If you're Korean American, you're probably either a liberal or a conservative. Yeah. You're progressive, not communist. Okay. Well, from what I hear, from what I've heard some communists say, progressives are still just liberals. And I think I agree with that, but whatever. You help, so ELF works with the disabled and helps to organize blah, 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 third party. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if Mad Korean is still watching. Probably not. But if Mad Korean or his two co-hosts, I don't know if I can say their names. One starts with an M, one starts with a W. If you guys are watching this, let's figure something out and let's do an episode of Ktown Social Club. Let's bring it back. Probably won't have as much craziness, I think. So it'll lose some of that entertainment factor, but yeah, whatever. That being said, Chuck Park? No, I don't know who that is. Elf asks, do you know about Chuck Park? No, don't know. I used to follow like a couple thousand maybe people on Instagram. Like every Korean influencer, every Korean American, every person that could possibly, political, all these accounts, I followed so many of them. And then after all this stuff, one day I was like, you know what? I don't want to follow any of these people anymore. So as I'm checking my Instagram now, I only follow 395 accounts now. So I reduced it by a huge amount. I still have 3,000 followers, but 90% of them are from like one reel that I posted of I think it was a Victor Gao video, like some Chinese guy. But I think that video got several million views and like several thousand people followed me from that. I actually at one point attempted to remove them from my followers because I wanted to make my profile private, and I did it for a few days, but I was like, oh my god, I can't remove 2,700 of these because I only had like 300 real followers. But whatever. Yeah. So you see, my Instagram is pretty random. The first video, I think that's Michael Parenti. Second video is like some footage from China when I went to Ktown, I think. And then the third one is like what is it, like a North Korean art exhibit I did in Hollywood like 8 years ago. And then I also did I went to an African restaurant and tried like jollof rice. Oh man, it's really good spicy rice. Try it. Yeah. Anyway, thank you all for watching and listening. It's Friday night. I hope you all have a wonderful Friday night. Elf, it's midnight in New York. You should get some sleep. Yeah. So yeah. Have a good Friday, everyone, and see you next time. Hopefully we can I can put out an actual episode. Oh shit, tomorrow's August 1st. So I hope before the end of August, I promise, before the end of August, there will be one episode of Ktown Social Club, okay? Before the end of August. All right? Good night, everybody. Have a good night and be safe and enjoy the weekend. Bye.